Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. Welcome back, everybody. I love that I'm saying welcome back. I should be welcoming myself back. I don't know. It's so weird. Y'all, it's been about 6 weeks since I did a podcast. And when I started this, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast every week. And I didn't really have a plan. Like, usually a lot of people who are actually paid to do this will plan it out like months in advance and have things lined up. I don't really roll like that because I don't yet have the resources to do that. And then life kind of throws you a lot of curveballs. And when you're flying by the seat of your pants, kind of how I am, it sets you back. So I had so many shows lined up for September and October, but those September podcasts they'll come at later dates, because aside from today's episode, the whole month of October, the whole month of the remaining podcasts will be dedicated to costumes, because Fat Girl Costumes, my solo show, is what inspired the Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. And October, Halloween, that's always kind of been my favorite holiday. It's been my mama and I's jam. And speaking of my mama, today's episode is actually in honor of Mama Ann, because it was initially supposed to be aired on her birthday, September 12th, but that didn't happen. So I know Mercury was in retrograde basically all of September, right? And for those of y'all who don't believe in horoscopes, let me just ask y'all, okay? For the month of September 2022, did you have at least a couple kind of technology glitches or some email miscommunications? Like, did you say "as per my last email" a lot? Or did you maybe have a nervous breakdown? Or all of the above? That is Mercury retrograde, y'all. So if you still don't believe in horoscopes, as my dad Hoover Bob calls them, horoscopes, then maybe you're a witch. And that's pretty cool too, because I'm recording this episode and this episode will be airing in October. So without further ado or ADHD outtakes of mine, let's dive into this week's episode, which is called Quiche, Beans, and Wrought Iron. So there's a Chumbawamba song that can best sum up how life has been going for me lately. Actually, kind of how I've always related to life, and maybe it's because of my Cajun ancestry, so more on the Cajun ancestry in a little bit. But if you relate and if you are inclined, feel free to sing or chant, shout. What is this song? A chant more so with me. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You are never going to keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You are never going to keep me down. And then it keeps repeating itself for a while. And then there's something like, piercing the night away. And then there's like, oh, Danny boy. Y'all know the song, okay? If you grew up in the time that I did, and if you haven't been under a rock, you know the song. So the point is that song from the 90s relates to my Cajun ancestors from way back in the 1700s. So here's a quick minute history on them, or dim if you speak Cajun, share. So basically Cajun is a slang word for Acadian, which means à Canada, from Canada. So those are the French peoples who settled in kind of that maritime area of Canada. So the eastern part of Canada, Nouvelle-Écosse, Nova Scotia in the 1600s. So in the late 1700s, the Brits, Acadians are fine up there in Canada, eating a lot of fish, I'm sure. And so then in the late 1700s, the British people come over, as Brits often do, and they're like, we're going to make you bow down to us, and if you don't, you're going to be exiled to the most hot, disgusting, humid, unfarmable swampland in the world, South Louisiana. So my Cajun ancestors were like, va te faire foutre, Angleterre, which means go yourself, England, and away they went to South Louisiana. And instead of the Acadian folk having a hard time finding food and making a life for themselves down in Louisiana, like the Brits hoped for, the Acadians, the Cajuns, thrived. They were singing and dancing to that Chumbawamba song, or, well, more like a washboard and a fiddle and playing Zydeco music, I'm sure. And they were making, shrimp etouffee and crawfish pot pie and all that kind of great stuff. So I have to constantly remind myself of that, especially when life knocks me down. And you know what? If you're not Cajun, I'm sure there's somewhere in your ancestry where you have it, where your ancestors were knocked down, but you got backed up again. You got backed up. I hope we're not backed up, because constipation is no joke. And if you don't have it in your ancestry where you were knocked down and you got back up again, but again, if you look at your history, I'm sure we all do somewhere, then you could be a Cajun with me. So, y'all, when my mama first moved up here to Jersey City with me nearly 13 years ago, she moved up in November. That winter, it was brutal. All right. I was just coming off of a high of doing my first solo show, Wayward Souls, and I had my first co-star role for Law and Order SVU. And I thought, well, I hoped that it would bring me fame and fortune. And it's not because I'm a delusional actor, but it's because I practice the law of attraction. And oftentimes not always so well. But all that it brought me was back to the drawing board and to the unemployment line, which is kind of normal, par for the course for actors. So like I just talked about earlier, being from South Louisiana, us Cajun gals are kind of used to, it's in our blood to make something out of nothing. And we're also used to not starving to death. So I told Mama, times are tough, Mama, money's tight, but we will not eat ramen noodles. They have too many carbs, too much sodium, and they remind me of cinder blocks that used to compose my college dorm room walls. No way. So y'all, 2 foods that are inexpensive, but you could do a lot with them. They're like the Play-Doh of foods, if you will, are beans and eggs, but not together, So I think British folk, those Brits, and it's nothing against British people, y'all. I don't know why they're on my brain, except for maybe how the Queen recently passed away, but I think they eat like bangers and mash. They I don't know. British people I know eat beans for breakfast, and I would assume that also comes with eggs. We don't. I'm just saying that those are 2 inexpensive foods that are have a good nutrient content, right? And also, y'all, I must give a shout out to my girl Jenny C for getting me into eggs to begin with. We used to work teaching kids together, and she would be like, girl, you got to just like start making omelets, throw veggies in there and make yourself like eggs because they're good for you. And I'm really glad she told me that. But when you put a lot of vegetables and feta cheese, it really disguises kind of like the embryonicness that used to disgust me about eggs. So back when Mama moved up, we were coming off of New Year's and we had a ham hock in the freezer. So what Cajun people will tend to do, I think what a lot of people will do, you got a ham hock, you got to use it. So we used most of it for the beans, and we had a little bit of ham left. And I was like, I'm going to make my first quiche ever. And I did, and it turned out delicious. It was like ham and cheese and broccoli, pie crust. You can't go wrong. Embryos, yum. But I have since adapted my egg and quiche concoctions to make them crustless and with less cheese or no cheese, a little bit more healthy. And Mama and I are basically meatless nowadays. But so no more ham hocks. But since we are Cajun, we still got the flavor. And I mean, literally, we put Tony Chachere's in the eggs. And so the quiche was my thing, and the beans were Mama's. So Mama would make a big pot of beans, usually on a Monday, because that's how we roll in South Louisiana. And she would make different types of beans: white beans, pinto beans, red beans, field peas, black-eyed peas. The list goes on, kind of like Bubba from Forrest Gump and all his shrimp concoctions. So when things are down and out, your spirits, your finances, it's often really hard to nourish yourself. Oh, that word nourish. It's such like a market research type of word, or a commercial for Neutrogena type of word. But you have to nourish yourself. You won't be worth any good if you're hungry and depleted. So Mama and I we just kept on cooking. We didn't know what we were going to do. Kept on cooking, looking for jobs, hanging on by a wing and a prayer, So one day, while being out of work and cooking up a storm, we hear like this commotion outside. And this guy is in our little front yard area, which I like to call a courtyard because I'm feeling bougie. And he's taken some of our like patinaed iron sculptures. And I should pause here and let y'all know that Louisiana folk, at least Mama and I, us Louisiana folk, we really like wrought iron. And the wrought iron that we had, it was from a bench, like an outdoor wooden bench, and the wood had all rotted. And Mama had been like, baby, we're going to save that iron because it's beautiful to make a sculpture. We'll get a nice patina, a nice rust, and it will just look beautiful. And it did. We had made it into like sculpture art in the courtyard. And this dude is here on a random, like kind of rainy January Monday trying to take it. So I run outside barefoot and pissed off. And I'm like, dude, what the hell are you doing? That's our wrought iron. Get out of here. And he just kind of walks off without a word, like he wasn't even doing anything bad. So being that the area that I live in, especially a decade ago, was pretty rough, as they say, air quotes, or as real estate agents would say, up and coming, air quotes. I was kind of taking my life into my hands, going out there and just chewing out this guy for taking our wrought iron sculptures. And I start griping to Mama about how would this guy have the audacity to come into our courtyard and start stealing our sculpture art? I mean, it was at the perfect, like, patina, patata, I don't know, patina to iron ratio. And Mama's like, baby, he's scrapping that metal for money. Copper is worth a lot right now, I hear. And my wheels, my Cajun ancestry wheels, they start turning. And I'm like, Mama, let's start gathering all of our iron bits from the front and the backyard, all of our sculpture art, and we're going to find a junkyard and we're going to go scrap that metal and make some money. So we don't need 7 of those old rusty rake heads that I was using, hanging up on a wall to use to hang other things. We just need 2 of them. We have some copper wiring from the old refrigerator. Come on, let's get to work. So we gather all of our iron sculptures, except for the flamingo and the chicken that were made out of old car parts. I'm not kidding. And we go to the junkyard, and we made like $50. I was hoping for like a lot more, but it still felt worth it. It felt purposeful again. Life felt purposeful again. And it was just something, along with cooking, to do just to get through the day and to buy us more eggs and beans. At that time, January of about a decade ago, I thought we were doomed, y'all. I thought we were just going to be broke and jokeless forever. But now looking back, now in hindsight, those were some pretty good times, because we were just in the present moment and we were just doing our best and we were there for each other. And it kind of prepared us for the pandemic and the shutdown that happened March 13th of 2020. And again, lately I'm crying because it's been rough. I've missed several podcast episodes. Weeks have gone by in my life that haven't been even close to normal. And one day I may elaborate, because it's all health related and health and wellness and talking about our journey, my journey, I think will help, or at least give humor to other people. And that's the theme of this podcast. But right now, clearly, I'm just not ready to go there. But so I wrote this episode, Quiche Beans and Wrought Iron, in honor of my mama for her 70th birthday. She turned 70 on September 12th. It was a weird birthday, to say the least, but it was her and her ancestors who taught me the art of powering through. And y'all, sometimes you won't always be able to power through, and that's okay too. You know, there's a big, big thing that you have to be strong. But in vulnerability, there is strength. And part of powering through is having fart noise days or weeks or months. But having some good food to keep you company is a must. And that's something that Mama and her Cajun ancestors have taught us. As of late, we have been eating a lot of coconut butter. So, like I said, right now things are really difficult for my family and I. And I just need to remember what got us through over a year ago. We were making a point of getting adequate protein, fiber, and, wait for it, iron. We're really more like not taking in iron, but iron outtake, since we were scrapping the metal, the iron. But right now, I don't know if protein, fiber, and iron are enough. But I do know that deep down, the fighting spirit in my Cajun ancestry will definitely be enough. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. Thank y'all for your patience. For those of y'all who were so jazzed up for a lot of episodes and who waited and who are still listening, I appreciate y'all. Have a good one.
Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.